It's okay. Sorry. Oh my God. What did he call him? Bongos. Get him out of here.
All right, good morning. Welcome to church. Am I on? Hello, it's green. Hey! Soda, hot dog, popcorn. Are we at the ballpark or are we at church? We're at church. I'm just kidding. Today is Pop-Up Sunday. It's when our kids move up to the next grade level, so we're celebrating them. We're excited. Our kindergartners are here with us for the first time, so let's welcome them. Yeah! Woo! You guys are going to get dismissed after our worship, but first we've got a few announcements. So I am decked out today because for our kids program, our theme is the big inning, which we are going back to the beginning of the Bible, and we're going to learn about God as creator and his creation, and so it's going to be awesome. And then for our sanctuary, we are going to be starting a new series today on the Psalms of Ascent. So we will welcome up our beloved librarian, teacher, and Bible leader, Ben Reese, here in a little bit. Yep, that's exciting. We have a few announcements before we get going here. Tomorrow night, there is a prayer night here in the sanctuary from 8 to 9. Is that up there? There we go. And that is open to everyone, high school and up. So let's meet together and seek the Lord. On our first Wednesday night church is going to happen on Wednesday, August 26th. So it's going to be the last Wednesday of each month. That's going to be awesome. We're going to start with a meal together, then break out into life groups for adults, and we will have programming for youth and children. So the whole family is invited, and we hope you guys can mark it on your calendar and make plans to be there. It'll help us to connect with one another, to grow, and to continue in our discipleship. Our next announcement is tithes and offerings. You can scan the QR code or use one of the boxes in the back or in the main headquarters. So our donations allow us to continue to do the ministry of our church, and we're so grateful for an opportunity to serve the Lord together in this way. Now, I want you to turn to a neighbor and welcome them. Tell them you are welcome. This is a place of hospitality, and we are so grateful that you're here. Now find somebody in a new row and tell them, look them in the eyes and let them know you are welcome.
Sunset sky, but my one request, Lord, my only aim is that you reign in me again, Lord, reign in Morning, everybody. Band announcements. Owen is up here playing with us. This morning, Grant was like, how many times, or somebody, was it Joel? Joel asked me, he was like, how many times have you played for church? And he was like, never, this is my first time. So make him welcome, all right? Yes. Okay, let's worship, guys.
Spinning out of control, I feel it, losing my defenses. No, it's not easy letting go and trusting you. And if I'm being honest, I know you, though you said you've got it. No, it's not easy letting go and trusting you. So I will stop, breathe, rest here in your goodness. I know you won't leave. It's my confidence. I will stop, breathe, rest here in your goodness. I know you won't leave. It's my confidence. Sing spinning out of control. Spinning out of control, I feel it, losing my defenses. No, it's not easy letting go and trusting you. And if I'm being honest, I know you, though you said you've got it. No, it's not easy letting go and trusting you. So I will stop, breathe, rest here in your goodness. I know you won't leave. It's my confidence. So I will stop, breathe, rest here in your goodness. I know you won't leave. It's my confidence. So here I am in the palm of your hand. Nothing can take me away. Nothing can take me away. 'Cause here I am in the palm of your hand. 'Cause nothing can take me away. Oh, nothing can take me away. It's my confidence. It's my confidence. Not a height. There's not a height or a depth or a lie inside my head. Not a fear or a fence. Nothing can take me away. There's not a height or a depth, not a lie inside my head. It's not a fear or a fence. Nothing can take me away. There's not a height or a depth or a lie inside my head. There's not a fear or a fence. Nothing can take me away. There's not a height or a depth or a lie inside my head. There's not a fear or a fence. Nothing can take me away. Oh, nothing can take me away. Nothing can take me away. Nothing can take me away. It's my confidence. 'Cause here I am. 'Cause here I am in the palm of your hand. 'Cause nothing can take me away. Oh, nothing can take me away. 'Cause here I am in the palm of your hand. Nothing can take me away. Nothing can take me away. It's my confidence. It's my confidence. Nothing can take me away. It's my confidence. It's my confidence. Let's sing Not a Height. There's not a height or a depth, not a lie inside my head. There's not a fear or a fence, nothing can take me away. There's not a height or a depth or a lie inside my head. There's not a fear or a fence, nothing can take me away. There's not a height or a depth, not a lie inside my head. Not a fear or a fence, nothing can take me away. Last time. There's not a height or a depth, not a lie inside my head. There's not a fear or a fence, 'cause nothing can take me away. Thank you, Jesus.
Take me back to the garden. Lead me back to the moment I heard your voice. Bring me back to communion. Lead me back to the moment I saw your face. It was oh so simple. It was easy to love. No space between us. It was easy to trust. You are closer, closer than my skin. You are in the air I'm breathing in. It's where the dead things come back to living. I feel my heart beating again. It feels so good to know you are my friend. This is the garden, here in the place I find you close. This is communion, here in the place I'm fully known. It was oh so simple, you're so easy to love. No space between us, you're so easy to trust. You are closer, closer than my skin.
Closer than my very skin.
You are in the air I'm breathing in. Here's where the dead things come back to living. I feel my heart beating again. It feels so good to know you are mine. This is where I'm meant to be. Me and you and me. don't have to prove a thing. You've already approved of me, and this is where I'm meant to be. Me and you and you and me, and I don't have to prove a thing. You've already approved of me, and this is where I'm meant to be. Me and you and you and me, and I don't have to prove a thing. You've already approved of me, and you are closer, closer than my skin. You are in the air I'm breathing in. Here's where the dead things come back to living. I feel my heart beating again. It feels so good to know you are mine. This is where I'm meant to be. Me and you and you and me, and I don't have to prove a thing. You've already approved of me. This is where I'm meant to be. Me and you and you and me,
And I don't have to.
and I don't have to prove a thing. You've already approved of me. Oh, this is where I'm meant to be. Me and you and you and me, and I don't have to prove a thing. You've already approved of me, 'cause you are closer, closer than my skin. Sing it. are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only, Lord. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only, Lord. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Come on. Without you, I fall apart. You're the one that guides my heart. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Where sin runs deep, your grace is more. Where grace is found is where you are. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. So teach my song to rise to you when temptation comes my way. When I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. So teach my song to rise to you when temptation comes my way. When I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Oh, you're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Lord, I'm so thankful for this time, God. I pray that we would just constantly remember. I know it's so easy to forget how much we need you. But we need to remember it, Lord. We'll always need you. It doesn't matter how much money we have, how much power we have, how many friends we have. However we may feel like we have it figured out, we will always need you, Lord. Pray that we will remember that. Please be with us this morning. Help us to have just the softest hearts, really sharp minds and open ears. I pray that when we hear the word this morning that it would affect us and we would take it with us, Lord. Amen. All right, everybody. It's time for the kiddos to leave. Bye, kids. And I'd like to welcome up our speaker this morning, my good friend, Mr. Ben Reese.
Good morning. Good to see you all. Good to be here with you. Well, I have the great privilege of being able to open the book of Psalms with you all. Yes. Love the enthusiasm. We're going to be opening the book of Psalms. Our text this morning is Psalm 120. That's Psalm 120. I'll begin by reading our psalm this morning. Psalm 120, a song of ascents. In my distress, I cry to the Lord that he may answer me. Deliver me, O Lord, from lying lips, from a deceitful tongue. What shall be given to you? And what more shall be done to you, you deceitful tongue? A warrior's sharp arrows with the glowing coals of the broom tree. Woe is me that I am an alien in Meshech, that I must live among the tents of Kedar. Too long have I had my dwelling among those who hate peace. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. Now, the first thing you heard me read, and hopefully maybe you see it in your Bibles, is a superscription, a song of ascents. And I want to be clear that that superscription is found within the original manuscripts. I want to be clear about that because in most English versions of the Bible, the superscription is written outside of the verses, so it can feel like an editorial addition. Like in my version of the NRSV, you have a song of ascents, and then above that you have another superscription, prayer for deliverance from slanderers. Some of you might have kind of a similar setup, and that can get confusing. But to be clear, a song of ascents is in the original text. This a prayer for deliverance from slanderers. That was put there by the editorial board of NRSV or whoever does those things. And if you look over at Psalm 121, you'll see that the same superscript is there as well, another psalm of ascents. And in fact, Psalm 120 begins a series of psalms, of 15 psalms, all bearing this same superscription, from Psalm 120 to Psalm 134. All of these are psalms of ascents. And this sermon is going to begin a series of sermons, of 15 sermons, on these 15 psalms of ascent. Now, what is a psalm of ascent? For the answer to that question, you will have to wait to the end of this sermon. I'm doing that not just to keep you in, I'm sure, unbearable anticipation and suspense, but practically it's hard to get anyone to care about a category or even to understand a category if they have not viewed a single individual example of said category. So I also think it's just improper to blather on about abstracts when we have this wonderful poem in front of us. So we'll jump right in to the text. In my distress, I cry to the Lord that he may answer me. Now, I'm going to begin with the brilliant, keen observation that this psalmist is in some kind of trouble. He's in some kind of distress, something I note with my keen eye. The interesting thing about distress, the interesting thing about trouble is just the sheer variety of types and intensities of trouble and distress that human beings face throughout their lives. And one of the challenges in interpreting the Psalms is trying to identify, trying to locate just what type of situation, what type of distress the psalmist is facing. Now, some interpreters, and I think this is a mistake, they sort of take an interpretive approach of resignation when it comes to the psalm. And what I mean by that is they sort of throw up their hands and say, you know, it's poetry. Who knows what's going on? It can apply to whatever situation you may find yourself in. And that sort of turns the language of the Psalms into this sort of mushy, all-purpose, general, religious language. And whether you're, a high schooler dealing with a fizzling romance or a 40-year-old dealing with a terminal cancer diagnosis, it's, the language is the same. Now, my problem with this, other than spitting in the face of everything I hold dear about poetry, is that it doesn't acknowledge, or it overlooks, the ways that the psalmist skillfully constructs certain words, certain prayers to meet the demands, to respond to particular situations in life. Let me give you an analogy. If you're dealing with a physical ailment, for example, you're having some sort of physical trouble, who do you want to attend to that trouble? A skilled doctor or a snake oil salesman? Now, I think most of us would choose the skilled doctor. Why? Because the skilled doctor is someone who understands that there is a fascinating variety of ways the body can betray us. And they have to sort of tailor their approach, their cure, to whatever situation, to whatever ailment you are facing. I think that we would all agree that a doctor who deals with a minor cut in the same way that they deal with an amputated limb is not a very effective doctor. The snake oil salesman, on the other hand, is somebody who kind of has this vague cure that they apply to everything regardless of the situation. You ever seen one of those like scammy health ads that are like, do you ever feel tired, in pain, worried, groggy in the morning, your kids don't listen to you? Then, it's like, what human being does not fall into one of those categories? And then they're like, drink alkaline water or whatever they're selling. Well, in looking at the Psalms, I choose to see the psalmists as sort of skilled doctors rather than snake oil salesmen. I think that a part of spiritual maturity in ministering to both our own soul and to others is to recognize that we have to be sensitive to the variety of human experience. I certainly don't want to be one of those smug people who just give the same trite religious reply to whatever the situation. You feeling a little blue today? Trust in God. Family was buried in an avalanche? Trust in God. Financial problems? Trust in God. Now, this can feel irreligious, but it's the Bible itself that tells us that we need to be discerning in how we approach ministry. Just to give you one example, Paul in 1 Thessalonians 5:14, he gives this sort of admonishment at the end of this letter. He says, "And we urge you, beloved, to admonish the idlers, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with them all." And you see that with these different categories of people, these different people who are going through different problems, he prescribes different approaches. You obviously, with the idler, somebody who is lazy, the last thing you want to do is just to help them. That's exactly what they want, right? They're like, oh, thank God I don't have to work. This is perfect. But with the weak, somebody who can't do something, then they do need help. So we have to tailor one approach to the other. It's also Ecclesiastes who reminds us in that wonderful chapter, famous chapter of chapter 3, that our experience is always changing, that in one season it's a time for this, in one season it's a time for that. There's a time for gathering, there's a time for scattering. So any hopes within the limited scope that we have as mortals of having sort of a comprehensive, one-size-fits-all approach to every moment is, of course, not tenable. So I think that it's important then that we pay attention to the specific situation in which the psalmist is responding to, that we attend our ears to that. Now, one other sort of pushback you might have is to say, well, great, another academic nerd that's going to make the Bible less accessible. I guess if I don't fall into this very specific situation that the psalmist is dealing with, and this psalm won't apply to me, and I guess I won't use it. But that's, one of the strange things about specificity is the more specific you are, the more universal it seems to affect and to be applied. As a writing teacher, I'm on a personal one-man crusade against vagueness and generality in student writing. It's a tough battle. Pray for me. But one of the things I remind them is that the more specific you are, one specific example is better than 1,000 abstractions. Because the more specific example, the more relevant it is. What do you think is going to affect you more? A general sermon about how God loves everybody and you're included in that, or somebody giving their personal testimony about how God in a very specific moment met them and they experienced the love of God? It's going to be the latter. So I think attending to the specificity of the Psalms is actually going to do our souls well in terms of being able to apply it, to be able to see how it is relevant to our lives. Okay, I'm going to step off my soapbox, and we'll sort of get into interpreting this text. We'll kind of break this up into 3 different parts. Part 1, we'll try to identify the situation that the psalmist faces. Part 2, we'll try to look at how does the psalm use this prayer in order to respond to that situation. In part 3, we'll ask the question, was this psalmist effective in what he did? Was there a resolution to this problem that he faces? So looking at this problem, obviously our greatest clue comes in verse 2. Deliver me, O Lord, from lying lips and from a deceitful tongue. Now, this seems to provide a pretty clear window into the problem or the situation that this psalmist is facing. In fact, the editorial crew here at the NRSV, they thought that this was a pretty open and closed case. They write here in their little note here, a prayer for deliverance from slanderers. In other words, the deceitful tongue, the lying tongue, the deceitful lips, are these people who are speaking lies against the psalmist, and the psalmist is having to wrestle with that reputational damage. Now, I think that we can all agree that people telling lies about us and ruining our reputation and being deceitful in how they represent us is a terrible thing, and certainly a situation that one could find oneself praying about. And there's something logical about this approach to this psalm, because the other thing that we know about this psalmist is that this person is an alien. Not in the extraterrestrial sense, but in the political economic sense. He's in some sort of location where he is not a full citizen. And if you've known immigrants, if you've been one yourself, if you've lived in a context in which you don't quite fit in, you know that they are subject to higher degrees of suspicion and talking, and they can be damaged with the kind of slander that perhaps he's talking about. So I do think that there's something probable about this interpretation, but there is some problems. I would start by making the observation that the psalm does not say that these deceitful lips or lying tongue is directed against the psalmist. And nowhere in this psalm is that made explicit, although in other psalms dealing with actual slander, they do make that explicit within the psalm. But I think that the major problem with this interpretation is it leaves a lot unexplained about this psalm. You ever put together a piece of furniture and at the end there's some key pieces that have somehow not found their way into the assembly process? And you're like, certainly they added those pieces for the idiots who aren't as able to assemble this piece of furniture as awesomely and efficiently as me. But you know something's off. And I think biblical interpretation is the same. Sometimes you have a good interpretation that explains some of the text, but there's some other pieces that don't quite fit. And that's always a good sort of a good sign for you as a biblical interpreter to go, let me take another possible look at that. And for me, the big part that doesn't fit is these very specific images that the author uses, the sharp arrow and the glowing coals of the broom tree. Now, one way to incorporate those images into the slander sort of interpretation is to say, well, this person is getting slandered about, and the glowing coals and the sharp arrows are the weapons of destruction that the psalmist is asking the Lord to cast on those people who are slandering against them. Okay? Now, I have a couple problems with that interpretation. One, it still doesn't explain the specificity of the images. Why the coals of a broom tree? Why are the arrows particularly sharp? That kind of goes unexplained. Why not just use the language of destruction instead of these specific images? And if you say, well, it's just ornamentation, it's just poetry, don't make me mad, okay? So, second of all, I think it does lack proportion. If you've been around me for lately, you'll know that my favorite word is proportion. You know, everything requires proportion. Small problems require a small amount of worry. It's proportion. So this person is being lied against. This person is being lied against, which is, an attack of words. That's serious. But then in response, the person is asking the Lord to destroy them in a violent manner. And to me, there's a lack of proportion to that response that he's asking for. But I think most notably is that it seems to contradict the end of this psalm. The psalm ends with the psalmist declaring, I am a person of peace, but when I speak, they are for war. So it would be a little bit odd that he is saying, I'm a person of peace, and that's why I'm going to use war imagery to call down the destruction of my enemies. You see how that doesn't quite fit? There are people like that. You ever met that person that's like, I'm a person of love and understanding, and I just want everybody to get along, and that's why I hope Trisha gets ran over by a car for not coming to my birthday party. You're like, I don't think you're quite a person of peace. That doesn't quite match. So I think there's something a little bit off about this interpretation. So to see what better I think is happening within this psalm, I think that we need to turn our attention to these strange images, particularly the coals of a broom tree. Now, I don't know if I've had a distinguished teaching career. I don't know what distinguished means, but I've certainly had a various, multitudinous teaching career. I've taught a lot of different classes, a lot of different ages, a lot of different contexts, a lot of different places. So I do have that going for me. One of the classes I got to teach was a history of technology class. And for preparing for that class, I, of course, bought a book called The History of Technology. I was drawn to it. It seemed to be the most comprehensive book on the subject. And also there was an Amazon review that said, this book changed my life. I read it every day. So I don't know. I'm still unsure what that entailed. But didn't change my life, I wouldn't say. But I did learn something pretty interesting, a technology that I hadn't really thought about, which is the development of coal. It's a very ancient technology. We developed it long ago, but somebody figured out that if you burn wood in a low oxygen environment, it produces carbonized wood that then is a better source of fuel that burns hotter and burns longer, which is kind of crazy, right? You burn something to make it more burnable. Doesn't make sense, but somebody figured it out. And coal was, the development of coal was very important. I'm not talking about mineral coal, that came later. Okay, we're talking about coal, okay, wood coal. Anyways, the development of coal was necessary for the development of other very important human technologies, such as the ability to smelt and work with metal. Obviously, if you're working with metal, if you're trying to melt metal, you need very hot temperatures that can be sustained over a long period of time. And wood, simple wood, just won't do for that task. You need the ability, you need coal to be able to sort of stoke those fires. So in most of the cases, in almost all of the cases in which coal is mentioned in the Bible, it's mentioned as a part of the manufacturing process of metal. And the broom tree was a desert tree that had these long roots. Because, if a tree is in the desert, the roots have to go very, very deep in order to tap into any sort of water to sustain it. And these roots were very hard because it had to break through the desert, the desert soil. In any case, if you dug up those roots, it was like the best wood to be able to turn into coal. It would turn into very hard wood that would burn very hot and burn for a very long time. And so when do you need coal that burns very hot and burns for a long time? You need it in the production of metal. And for the purposes of our talk this morning, within the production of weapons. So what if we saw these burning coals not as something that the psalmist was asking to be thrown onto his enemies, but as a part of the process of developing weapons? How might that change our interpretation? I think it would go something like this. What is all this deceitful talk going to lead to? It's just going to lead to the production of more weapons, the sharp arrows being a key example of that. In other words, the lying and deceit are not personal attacks against the psalmist, but the kind of cultural propaganda that leads to increased militarization and conflict. That's the lies that this psalmist is contending against. Now, what might have been the content of this propaganda? Generally, jingoistic propaganda has fallen into two categories. Xenophobia, saying that some other group of people is worth conquering or that they're not valuable enough, their lives are not valuable and they should be conquered. And ethnocentrism, we're so great and so special that we deserve their property and we should go and take it. So this person seems to be living in a culture that is fixated on war. They have values that he is in conflict with. Now, I think that this interpretation is strengthened by the mention of Meshech and Kedar in this next section of the text. Now, I have a map. We can throw it up there in a second. So the blue here is where Meshech would be generally located, and the red circle you can see right there is where Kedar would be kind of generally located. Now, one observation you can make, one geographical point you can make, these are very far apart. Okay, these are right next to each other. So in terms of the psalmist actually living in any of these locations, that's improbable, right? So he's not talking about literally living in these different places. Instead, what he seems to be doing is using these places as sort of to talk about figuratively what his exile is like. And in choosing Meshech and Kedar, if you look at these references and how they're used in the Bible, they're both often sort of talked about in the Bible as being these militaristic civilizations that are involved in slave trade, among other things, and are involved in the taking of property and the attack, kind of living by attack. And so I think that this further strengthens the concept that what the psalmist is not dealing with is kind of personal attacks against him, but rather the sort of the talk, the values of the whole culture. So how might we sum up then the particular situation in which this psalmist finds himself? He is a person who feels out of joint, isolated, like he doesn't fit in with the values or the culture that he finds himself in. Have you ever been talking among a group of friends? Maybe you're telling something that is important to you, and you realize in the course of telling what you're kind of saying, what you're saying, that nobody is listening to you. And you just sort of go quieter and quieter, and nobody even notices that you've stopped talking in the middle of your story. How did that make you feel? Or worse, have you ever shared something that was important to you, something that was meaningful to you, and you got laughed at? How was that? Those small moments, they can produce like very strong negative reactions in us. Why? Because human beings long for, and if you don't have this word in your vocabulary, you can add it, conviviality. An idea that's not just about being with people, but it comes from the idea of sharing a table, of enjoying one another's company, of sharing something that we long for, not just physical presence with others, but a sharing with others. And when that sharing isn't happening, it causes great distress to human beings. There's this video, they did this like scientific experiment with a baby. So the baby's sitting there, he's pretty happy. The mother comes in this like scientific room. It's kind of a cruel experiment, and she just stares at the baby, and like she's told not to make any facial expressions or respond to the baby in any way. Have anybody seen this video? So the mother's just, and so the baby's like, just like chilling. But then like he's like, he starts to get a little bit like, he starts to sort of like get a little bit crazier, a little bit louder. And it's kind of sad because you see like kind of panic take over the baby as all of his sort of resources of having his mother respond to him, of mirror him, are failing until suddenly he's just sobbing, breaking down. And of course the experiment does end with the mother grabbing the child and being like, yeah, I love you. So it wasn't like, didn't go too long, but it was like, even for those few moments that you're watching the baby's expression, it's like kind of heartbreaking. And I think that's a good picture of something that's very deep inside of us. That when we live in a place where we don't feel like we fit, we don't feel like people share our values, we don't feel like that we have conviviality, it's distressing. And I think it's that distress that the psalmist is dealing with. Part 2, how does this psalmist then use this prayer to respond to that situation? I think the first thing that we can say about his response is, first of all, he recognizes that there's a problem. I think that we often think that the courage of a psalmist begins with their sort of faith-filled response to their situation. But I think it's more accurate to say that the courage of the psalmist begins in the actual formulation of the problem that they have. And we live in a world that wants us to indulge in whatever in order to mask what is actually happening inside of us. And the psalmist recognizes, no, there's something wrong. This is actually very difficult for me. And for many of us, we have a tendency to ignore what we're going through, to ignore those things that we feel throughout the day, and they never get brought up in prayer. So the first response that the psalmist has is he has the courage to bring his complaint to God. The second response that the psalmist has is he does seek companionship with God. I think this, hopefully, what I've said so far, brings into greater focus and greater power that line, answer me. Because he does not find that conviviality, that sharing with the culture around him, but he wants to feel it with God. Respond to me. And you can kind of like, I just see the baby's face, as they're sort of in a panic, as being like, I might not fit in here, but I want to know, God, that you are listening, that you care for me. And I think that's a profound request that the psalmist makes. He wants companionship. He wants to feel that closeness with God. Third, the psalmist, part of his response is that he clearly names the evil that is surrounding him as it is. Obviously, the propaganda, whatever cultural ideas, whatever culture that he was facing, wasn't as like brazen as, hey guys, we're about war. Let's go capture these people and sell their children to slavery. It was probably, dressed up in all sorts of nice propaganda about rights and the gods and whatever it is. And the psalmist within his prayer says, I'm not going to be seduced by that. This is what it is. And one of the functions of prayer is to name clearly things that the world wants us to feel vaguely. Fourth, the final line of this poem, the psalmist does make a stand. He says, I am not like the people around me. I am for peace, they are for war. There's not going to be any sort of like me capitulating to this society. Anyone, maybe when you were young and you felt the pull of peer pressure, at one point you had to make a stand, right? You had to make a definite choice, being like, I am not like that. That is not who I'm going to be. I'm going to make a stand. I am going to be different. And that's part of the response that the psalmist has. He comes to a resolution that I'm not going to find my needs of companionship met by just giving in to the culture around me. How many people put down or put away their own Christian values and virtues simply because of the burden that it sometimes feels to live distinctly in a culture that doesn't support our faith. So part 3, is the psalm actually successful in solving this person's problems? Now, you might say, well, of course it is. It's a psalm. It's a prayer. They always work. But I would want to put some shades of nuance to that. I think that there's 3 general categories of how psalms function, okay? And this isn't scientific, okay? But 3 categories for your consideration, let's say. This isn't a system. All right, so first, prayers as cures. There's sometimes in the Psalms where the person has some sort of like anxiety, they have some sort of fear, they have something that in the process of bringing it before the Lord, they find a resolution to that fear, to that anxiety. In fact, the opposite sort of takes place in the person's soul. Where there was insecurity, there's now confidence. Where there was sadness, there's now joy. Whatever problem that the person had within the act of praying, it resolved that problem. And hopefully some of you have experienced times of prayer like that, where what you feared in bringing it to the Lord, he showed you that it wasn't to be feared. What you were anxious about, what you were insecure about, he showed you was nothing to be compared to the love that he has for you. And you walk away, that issue being sort of resolved. And that happens, the prayers as cures. Second, we can say that there's prayers as consolation, that there's not a resolution to the problem as such. The problem still remains a problem, but there is a consolation given. You are given enough strength to keep moving forward. The consolation either comes within a promise of that it will be resolved into the future, so that while difficult now, you can move forward confidently, knowing that this won't be the situation forever. Sometimes there's consolations in different ways. It doesn't remove the problem as such, but it provides just enough sort of help to get you through. And that's true. There's certain problems that don't get resolved in a moment. There's certain challenges that we face as human beings that we carry with us for some time. But God is a God of consolation. The final category of prayer I would call is prayers of irritation. Sometimes the problem that the psalmist brings before the Lord is brought into even greater sort of contrast. This is especially true of psalms that deal with injustice. That the psalmist, in praying, actually becomes more passionate, more aware, more awakened to the problem than just simply resolving it. It would be strange, right, if you were like, I heard about widows starving in my community, but then I prayed about it, and I just realized it wasn't that bad. I think you would say, you need to rethink your prayer approach. There's sometimes that we go to the Lord in prayer and he actually puts a burden onto us. The prophets are people who often have experienced this type of prayer. Prayers as irritants. They goad us into action. We realize that maybe something that was a small problem actually needs to be taken more seriously than we have taken it. So how would we characterize this psalm and what he accomplishes? I think that we can obviously say that there's no cure. He doesn't walk away saying, you know what, actually, my neighbors aren't that bad. I've been blowing this all out of proportion. We're all for peace, and we're chilling now. That would be great, but it doesn't happen. Consolation, possibly. I think the best way to characterize this psalm is a psalm of irritation. He actually walks away recognizing that he is alone, that there is a distinction, an unbridgeable distinction between him, his values, and what he believes the Lord has called him to, and the culture around him. And that pain of aloneness is real. It can't be resolved. And in a way, there's a kind of deliverance in that reality. Because what is the main danger that the psalmist faces? It's the same danger that you see every protagonist in a Disney, high school drama face, right? They want to be the cool kids, so they leave their lame friends to be the cool kids, but then they adopt values that aren't them, and then they realize that they need to go back to the lame kid because that's who are really their friends. It's that idea that in order to get along, because this is so hard, because this is so challenging to live separate in a culture that I don't quite fit into, because that's so distressing, wouldn't it be easier if I just adopt the culture around me? That's the danger. And so in a way, irritating that distinction and saying, no, this is actually difficult. They don't share your values. This is distressing. In a way, is a kind of deliverance from the capitulation that this psalmist was facing. But while I think that this is a beautiful poem of moral courage and cultural nonconformity, there is something sad about it. Because the main problem, the lack of connection, isolation, the living in exile, is not solved by this prayer. It's in fact worsened to some degree. But I think it's at this precise moment that gives us an opportunity to talk about the Psalms of Ascent. Because in order to have an ascent, you have to be at a low. And this is what Psalms of Ascent are about. It's about the courage to recognize where we are and the journeys that we take to get to somewhere else. Historically, the Psalms of Ascent were most likely part of pilgrim festivals. And these would be times during the year. There are 3 pilgrim festivals in the Old Testament, times when the whole community or a representative of each family would come to journey to the temple, to be in the presence of God and to be with one another. And so the idea of the Psalms of Ascent is that journey that we take towards God's presence. But what makes sort of our faith so rich is that the Bible acknowledges that God is invisible and not stationed in any geographical place. And so the journey into God's presence, we have to conceptualize within the lived and embodied existence that we find ourselves. And that is why, I know that's abstract, but that's why the Bible characterizes this journey into the presence of God. What does it mean to seek God, to be close to him, to be into the presence of God? The Bible, in most cases, characterizes this journey into the presence of God as a journey, not in the abstract of a soul sort of rising through the ether towards the heavens, but a journey like the one that's going to be expressed in these Psalms, a journey from isolation, disjointedness, to a connection with others who share values. That's why the presence of God is most often in the Bible pictured as a shared meal. There's a coming together with other believers who we can finally have that thing that all of us long for, a sharing, that people know us, they value what we value, and they love us. For the psalmist to take or to begin that journey, he has to acknowledge that where he is not where he needs to be. But he's going to get there. And we're going to see in this Psalm of Ascents the journeys, the perils, the problems of human beings as they long and journey to connect with God by coming together with others. You'll see that this whole Psalm of Ascents is going to culminate in some of the most beautiful communal psalms that the psalmist has to offer. So I will end with just noting some takeaways. First, I think that it's important to acknowledge that living in a culture that doesn't share our values, it takes a toll on us. I think it takes a toll on our souls in ways that we don't often acknowledge. And I think that we should. I think that it's good to need God's companionship because you feel like there is some toll that gets taken on you. And I think that in general, we need to, in times of prayer, allow enough silence to actually figure out what issues it is that we are facing, to be honest about those, to have the courage to actually bring our prayers to God. It can feel pathetic to talk about loneliness to God, but he understands us. He's the God who said it's not good for man to be alone. Second, I think that we live in a culture of quick solutions. If something can't be fixed immediately, then we give up on it. And the Psalms remind us that one of the functions of Psalms is to remind us that some problems that we face in life require long journeys. And because of that, we need to keep the coals of discontentment to some degree a little bit hot in our soul to move us to that direction. It's very easy in our culture to mask loneliness, to mask isolation with all sorts of gizmos that the world provides, and to pretend that it's not a problem. But those quick fixes, we know in the silence of our soul, are not what we actually need. We need to move towards finding intimacy with others, being vulnerable with others, and shared meals. Third, I think that we need to acknowledge that we all need conviviality. We all need shared relationships. But that takes work. And it's my hope that as we go through these Psalms as a church, we'll be encouraged, we'll be challenged to keep pressing on in this journey together towards God by learning how to share life better together. I think that we can say honestly that there's ways that we can do that better. But if church feels like an obligation that you have to go to rather than a refuge in which you find people who share your values, who love you, we need to do better. And we need to journey together towards that place where we can be together, we can share life, and we can feel the presence of God in the face of those who love us. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to live our lives to you. And despite the pressures of the culture around us, we want to do what's right. And sometimes doing what's right has a cost, Father. It takes a toll on us. I pray, God, that this church will be a place where people can come to find consolation, to find help, and to find rejuvenation from the pressures of living a life dedicated to you. That we can find joy together. We can share life together. Lord, I thank you for everybody in this room. I pray a blessing on them as they head into this week. I pray this in the name of our Lord Jesus. Amen.